cars that are not worth buying versus cars that are worth buying. I had one of my subscribers recently ask me a question about a car that was for sale in his local Facebook marketplace. And today we're going to discuss when you're vetting a classic Mercedes for sale in an ad, let's say it's on Craigslist or Facebook or Kijiji or one of the other sites where it's free to advertise a car, whether or not that car should be considered and is worth buying, or whether it's not worth buying and you should run away from it. I'm not going to give you the typical answer where I go, oh, if it has rust or blah, blah, blah. You know, it all depends on the value of the car. So, number one, usually if the car has been garaged for a long time, even if it might have some rust here or there, if the interior and the dash are in good shape, it hasn't been left outside to rot for ages, it is worth considering. On the other side of the coin, if it has been left outside, the interior is moldy and mildewed and disgusting. If the last date it was run was before you were born, if the car has holes in the floor that are so big you don't know where to put your foot, maybe it's been sitting outside for too long. Now, if you want a challenging project, fine. But I'm just saying, you know, oftentimes the less involved project is typically only a little bit more money than the project that's going to cost thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars to fix. Next, if it runs, is it worth the money? That's a question a lot of people ask. Well, there are a lot of things involved in whether a car runs or not and how long it's going to run. There's the stuff you can see and the stuff you can't see. So with diesel engines specifically, if the car runs and runs smoothly, does not belch out a ton of smoke, has decent engine temperatures, doesn't lose oil pressure after it gets hot, has reasonable levels of power, and starts well cold, it's probably okay. On the other hand, if the car doesn't run on vegetable oil, if it smokes really bad, if it's got an extremely rough idle and a dead cylinder, if it's got so much blow-by that as soon as you start cranking the engine, not even when the engine's running, as soon as you start cranking the engine, you see blow-by just billowing up out of the air cleaner and the valve cover. Maybe it's time to look further. Now, what tests are indicative of a good further approach? Well, there are three. The first one is a compression leak down test. The second one is removing and inspecting the lower oil pan, which nobody likes to do. And the third one is an oil analysis to look for things that might be floating in your oil that are bad. Now, with gasoline engines, you might also want to do a cooling system pressure test to see if there are any hydrocarbons in the cooling system. Caveat, this may apply to 602 and 603 turbo diesel Mercedes as well. In addition, if you're looking at a V8 gas Mercedes, it's a good idea to pop the valve covers and check the timing chain if that's not an expense or a process you want to deal with. Now, it doesn't mean that if the car fails in these parameters, it's a bad deal. It just means that you have to adjust the price. On the typical $5,000 300D, if the car comes back as having a dead cylinder, weak oil pressure, and failing an oil analysis test, you may want to adjust the price down about negative 100% to negative $10,000. Then you're in a price bracket that works. Basically, the car has to be free, almost, or close. You know, it doesn't mean you should scrap the car, but it means you should pay a lot less for it. Now, a third area that I ask people to look at when they're checking these cars is the car going to need so much work that I can't buy a comparably decent car for the same amount of money and labor and parts that I have to put into it? If you go out and you buy a rusty 280 SE that's got no floors, no trunk, holes in the fenders, but it runs, is it still a better use of your time to buy a car with a solid body, a decent interior, but a non-running, let's say a locked up engine? Engine and repair costs are quite predictable. Body and cosmetic repairs are not predictable. They can go all over the place. So therefore, I think it's better to try to seek out, if you want a cheaper Mercedes, find with a mechanical problem that is cosmetically sound rather than one that appears to be mechanically sound that is not structurally or cosmetically sound, because often it is mechanically unsound as well. Anyway, I think these tips should help you a little bit with your, is everything okay? These tips should help you discern better whether a car in Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist is a good deal. These are all questions you should ask yourself. If you found this video helpful, please like, share, and subscribe. Tap the bell for notifications. And come back and watch us in the future. And if you have any other tips to our viewers about when to walk or when to run, or when to go for it, leave them in the comments. But don't say things like when it has rust, or if the engine idles a little weird, or if it has a rusty gas tank. Those are all things that you can fix. So try to keep in mind that these are 40-year-old cars and you are going to have to do some work. The goal isn't to do no work. The goal is to use your time and money wisely to improve the car. All right, guys. See you later. Thanks.